Hello friends, we are going to learn about the topic cloud backup solutions and their features. In this, we are going to learn what cloud backup is, what disaster recovery is, what are the solutions for cloud backup and disaster recovery, and what are the features which we need to know. Cloud backup solutions and their features. What is cloud backup actually? See, as we all know, what cloud services are, mostly why people go to cloud services, so that their data is not lost or due to any condition or any disaster, if certain kind of the thing or the data is not there or it is missing, then they can recover it cost of any catastrophe or any of the thing that happens with the data, then it can be recovered and the data gets backed up. Now this can be done on the on-premise basis also, but then most of the companies, they do not have such resources to do it. Thus people are now migrating to cloud services for backup and disaster recovery. So what cloud backup is? Cloud backup, also known as online backup or remote backup, is a strategy for sending a copy of a physical or virtual file or database to a secondary off-site location for preservation in case of equipment failure or catastrophe. The secondary server and storage systems are usually hosted by a third party service provider who charges the backup customer a fee based on storage space or capacity used, data transmission bandwidth, number of users, number of servers, or number of times data is accessed. Then, now here, implementing cloud data backup can help bolster an organization's data protection strategy without increasing the workload of information technology staff, because they just had to rent or subscribe for the services and they will be able to access it. So they just had to pay the amount they are using it. Thus, it is less workload as well as cost effective. The labor saving benefit may be significant and enough of a consideration to offset some of the additional costs associated with cloud backup, such as data transmission charges. Most cloud subscriptions run on a monthly or yearly basis. While initially used mainly by consumers and home offices, online backup services are now commonly used by small and medium sized businesses, that is SMBs, as well as larger enterprises to back up some forms of data. For larger companies, cloud data backup may serve as a supplementary form of backup. Now, what is cloud? Here, see, cloud computing is general term that refers hosted services that are delivered over the internet, or we could say it is like distributed databases over internet, or several other services or technologies which combine together and form a new technology which is being served as a service format to the user over internet is known as cloud computing. So here, different from traditional web hosting, the services on the cloud are sold on demand. That means whenever the user required or what is the need of that particular r- user, then on that demand the services is being transformed or given or served, are offered in an elastic manner, meaning the customer can use as much or as little of the service as needed and are managed completely by the service provider. Additionally, a cloud can be private or public. A public cloud sells services to anyone on the internet, such as how Amazon Web Services operates, while a private cloud supplies hosted services to a limited number of users. Now, how cloud backup works. In an organization's data center, a backup application copies data and stores it on a different media or another storage system for easy access in the event of a recovery situation. While there are multiple options and approaches to offsite backup, cloud backup serves as the offsite facility for many organizations. In an enterprise, the company might own the offsite server if it hosts its own cloud service, but the chargeback method would be similar if the company uses a service provider to manage the cloud backup environment. See, now what we know, what cloud computing is using those services. In this, backup as a service is also a form of service which is being provided by cloud computing service providers to the end users or the clients who want this type of service for their particular enterprise or organization. Now, what cloud backup is? Cloud backup generally means online backup. In online backup, we just have to subscribe for a service or type of service if we are working for a public cloud. But when in private cloud, then that private cloud works only for a particular organization, but the chargeback is similar. There are a variety of approaches to cloud backup with available services that can easily fit into an organization's existing data protection process. Now, varieties of cloud backup. What it include? First thing, backing up directly to the public cloud. It is the first type which is being included in types of cloud backup. One way to store organizational resources is by duplicating resources in the public cloud. Then, this method entails writing data directly to cloud providers such as AWS or Microsoft Azure. The organization uses its own backup software to create the data copy to send to the cloud storage service. The cloud storage service then provides the destination and safekeeping for the data, but it does not specifically provide a backup application. In this scenario, it is important that the backup software is capable of interfacing with the cloud's storage services. Additionally, with public cloud options, IT, that is information technology professionals, may need to look into supplemental data protection procedures. Then another type of variety in cloud backup is backing up to a service provider. First one was backing up to the public cloud, second one is backing up to the service provider. So here in this scenario, an organization writes data to a cloud service provider that offers backup services in a managed data center. Then the backup software that the company uses to send its data to the service may be provided as part of the service, or the service may support specific commercially available backup applications. Then third variety for cloud backup is choosing a cloud to cloud backup. This is the third type. Now in this, these services are among the newest offerings in the cloud backup arena. See, first thing was backing up to the public cloud or duplicating your data to public cloud. Second one was migrating to cloud. Now cloud to cloud backup. So they specialize in backing up data that already lives in the cloud, either as data created using a software as a service application or as data stored in a cloud backup service. As its name suggests, a Cloud to cloud backup service copies data from one cloud to another cloud. The cloud to cloud backup service typically hosts software that handles this process. Then the another variety of cloud backup is using online cloud backup systems. There are also hardware alternatives that facilitate backing up data to a cloud backup service. These appliances are all in one backup machines that include backup software and disk capacity along with the backup server. The appliances are about as close to plug and play as backup gets, and most of them also provide a seamless or nearly so link to one or more cloud backup services or cloud providers. The list of vendors that offer backup appliances that include cloud interfaces is long. The Quantum or with Quantum and unit trends, ArtServe, Rubrik, Cohesity, Dell EMC, StorageCraft, and Asigra active in this arena. That means these are the companies which provide this type of services and cloud backup. Then these appliances typically retain the most recent backup locally in addition to shipping it to the cloud backup provider. Here, so that any required recoveries can be made from the local backup copy, saving time and transmission costs. When an organization engages a cloud backup service, the first step is to complete a full backup of the data that needs to be protected. The initial backup or this initial backup can sometimes take days to finish uploading over a network as a result of large volume of data that is being transferred. In a 3 to 1 backup strategy where an organization has 3 copies of data on 2 different media, at least one copy of the backed up data should be sent to an offsite backup facility so that it is accessible even if on site systems are unavailable. So, this is 3, 2, and 1 type of data backup strategy. Now, if the amount of data in the initial backup is substantial, the cloud backup service may provide a full storage array for the seeding process. These arrays are typically small network attached storage, that is NAS, devices that can be shipped back and forth relatively easily. After the initial seeding, only changed data is backed up over the network. Now, using a technique called cloud seeding, a cloud backup vendor sends a storage device such as disk drive or tape cartridge to its new customer, which then backs up the data locally onto the device and returns it to the provider. This process removes the need to send the initial data over the network to the backup provider. Now, this is cloud backup checklist and the key features for that. First feature, encryption of data in transit and at rest in the cloud. So, the reason for relevance for this feature is prevents access to the data by cloud service provider staff and other unauthorized users. Then the next thing is SAS 70 or SSAE 16 type 2 compliance of the cloud service provider. So the reason for relevance of this feature is ensures the service provider has strong IT controls in place, a must have for companies and for industries with additional regulatory requirements. Data duplication or data deduplication is another feature for cloud backup. So, the relevance here why it is used is it reduces storage cost. Source side deduplication also reduces bandwidth requirements. Then another feature is hybrid cloud backup option. The reason for relevance here is cached on-premise backups eliminate long restore times of a pure cloud backup offering. Then another feature here is getting data in and out of the cloud via physical device. Now, the relevance here for this feature is options of initial seeding of backups and delivery of restore data via physical disk to minimize initial backup and restore times. Another feature here is incremental forever, ensures efficient ongoing backups. Then another feature is sub file level backup of changed files. So the reason here is it minimizes the amount of data to be backed up, especially with large files. Again, the next feature is bandwidth features, and the relevance here for this is throttling and scheduling to minimize the impact of backups on other users. Then how the data is restored is the major question when coming to cloud backup and recovery. So cloud backup services are typically built around a client software application that runs on a schedule determined by the purchased level of service and the customer's requirement. For example, if the customer has contracted for daily backups, the application collects, compresses, encrypts, and transfers data to the cloud service provider's server every 24 hours. So, it mainly depends on the contract or the service level agreement between the service provider and the client. To reduce the amount of bandwidth consumed and the time it takes to transfer files, the service provider might only provide incremental backups after the initial full backup. Now, cloud backup services often include the software and hardware necessary to protect an organization's data, including applications for Exchange and SQL Server. Here, whether a customer uses its own backup application or the software the cloud backup service provides, the organization uses that same application to restore backed up data. Restoration could be on a file by file basis, by volume, or a full restoration of the complete backup. Here, if the volume of data to be restored is very large, the cloud backup service may ship the data on a complete storage array that the customer can hook up to its servers to recover its data. This is in fact a reverse seeding process. Restoring a large amount of data over a network can take a long time. A key feature of cloud backup restoration is that they can be done anywhere from nearly any kind of computer. For example, an organization could recover its data directly to a disaster recovery site in a different location if its data center is unavailable. Now, types of backup or types of cloud backup. In addition to the various approaches to cloud backup, there are also multiple backup methods to consider. While cloud backup providers give customers the options to choose, the backup method that best fits their needs and applications. It is important to understand the difference among the three main types. Full backups copy the entire data set every time a backup is initiated. As a result, they provide the highest level of protection. However, most organizations cannot perform full backups frequently because they can be time consuming and take up too much storage capacity. Incremental backups only backup the data that has been changed or updated since the last backup. The first type was full backup, second type is incremental backup. This method saves time and storage space but can make it more difficult to perform a complete restore. Incremental is common form of cloud backup because it tends to use fewer resources. Differential backups are similar to incremental backups because they only contain data that has been altered. However, differential backups backup data that has changed since the last full backup rather than the last backup in general. This method solves the problem of difficult restores that can arise with incremental backups. Full versus incremental versus differential backup. That means the three types of cloud backup. The first backup was full backup, second one was incremental backup, and third one was differential backup. So now we are going to see what kind of backups are there. When we come for full backup, see, it is the source data. Data is copied in its entirely every time. So source data, it is first backup, second backup, third backup, fourth backup, so on. Then coming to incremental backup. In this, data is copied in its entirety to begin with and then only new or updated data backed up each time and backup is initiated after that. So it is the source data and then first backup, then all the data is being backed up. Second backup, the new data which is there is backup, and then third backup and fourth backup. So it is this every time. That means it is incrementing every time. Then coming to differential backup. Now in differential backup, data is copied in its entirety to begin with and then only sets of backup with a change are backed up each time a backup is initiated after that. So source data, then first backup, second backup, third backup and fourth backup. So whenever there is a change, that data is backed up again. Now pros and cons of cloud backup. Before choosing cloud backup as a backup strategy, it is important to weigh the potential pros and cons, that is advantages and disadvantages that are associated with using a third party to store data. The advantages of cloud backup include, first thing, generally it is cheaper to backup data using a cloud backup service compared to building and maintaining an in-house backup operation. The associated cloud backup costs will rise as the volume of backup data rises, but the economies are likely to continue to make cloud backup an attractive choice. Then, some providers may offer free cloud backup, but the amount of backup capacity is typically limited, which makes free backup appropriate for some home users and only the smallest of companies. The cloud is scalable, so even as a company's data grows, it can still be easily backed up to a cloud backup service. But organizations need to be wary of escalating costs as data volume grows. By weeding out dormant data and sending it to an archive, a company can better manage the amount of data it backs up to the cloud. Managing cloud backups is simpler because service providers take care of many of the management tasks that are required with other forms of backup. Backups are generally more secure against ransomware attacks because they are performed outside of the office network. Backup data is typically encrypted before it is transmitted from the customer's site to the cloud backup service and usually remains encrypted on the service storage systems. Cloud backups help lower the risk of common data backup failures caused by improper storage, physical media damage, or accidental overwrites. A cloud backup service can help to consolidate a company's backup data because the service can backup main data center storage systems, remote office servers, and storage devices, and end user devices such as laptops and tablets. Backed up data is accessible from anywhere. This is the major component, or you can say the major facility which cloud provides. That means anytime, anywhere access. Now, despite its many benefits, there are some disadvantages and challenges to using a cloud backup service, including some are: first one, the backup speed depends on bandwidth and latency. Second thing, for example, when many organizations are using the internet connection, the backup could be slower. Then, this could be bothersome when backing data up, but could be an even greater issue when it is necessary to recover data from the service. Costs can escalate when backing up large amounts of data to the cloud. As with any use of cloud storage, data is moved outside of an organization's buildings and equipments and into the control of an outside provider. Therefore, it is incumbent to learn as much as possible about the cloud backup provider's equipment, physical security procedures, data protection process, and fiscal viability. Now, the best practices for cloud backup solutions and its importance. While strategies, technologies, and providers widely vary, there are several agreed upon best practices when it comes to implementing cloud backup in the enterprise. In general, a few guidelines are: first thing, understand all aspects of the cloud backup provider service level agreement, such as how data is backed up and protected, where vendor offices are located, and how costs accumulate over time. Do not rely on any one method or storage medium for backup. Test backup strategies and data recovery checklists to ensure they are sufficient in case of a disaster. Have administrators routinely monitor cloud backups to make sure processes are successful and uncorrupted. Choose a data restore destination that is easily accessible and does not overwrite existing data. Make decisions about specific data or files to back up based on the criticality of the information to business operations. Use metadata properly to enable the quick location and restoration of specific files. consider using encryption for data that must stay confidential. Then comes special considerations. When choosing a cloud backup service provider, there are a few additional considerations to weigh. Some companies have special needs related to data protection, but not all cloud backup providers are able to meet those needs. For example, if a company must comply with a specific regulation such as HIPAA or GDPR, the cloud backup service needs to be certified as compliant with data handling procedures as defined by that regulation. While an outside firm provides the backup, the customer is still responsible for the data and could face serious consequences, including steep fines, if the cloud backup provider does not maintain the data appropriately. Then, data archiving is another special consideration when selecting a cloud backup service. Archiving is different from routine data backup. Archived data is data that is not currently needed but still needs to be retained. Ideally, that data should be removed from the daily backup stream because it is likely unchanged and it unnecessarily increases the volume of backup data transmission. Some cloud backup providers offer archiving services to complement their backup products. Archive data is generally stored on equipment geared to longer retentions and infrequent access, such as tape or low performing disk systems. That type of storage is generally less expensive than storage used for active backups. Now, cloud backup versus cloud disaster recovery or data recovery. Cloud backup and cloud disaster recovery are not the same, but they are connected. While cloud backup services can be tapped to recover data and resume operations after a disruptive event, it should be noted that they are not necessarily specifically oriented to provide all the features and services that a true DRAAS, that is disaster recovery as a service offering, would provide. For example, to use the data that was saved to a cloud backup service to recover from a disaster, it would have to include much more than just data files, such as operating systems, application software, drivers, and utilities. Users would have to set up their backup routines to include those elements specifically, such as by mirroring entire servers to the cloud backup service. More importantly, a true disaster recovery as a service not only has the data and system and application software ready to be accessed, it also provides the necessary servers, physical or virtual, and storage resources to spin up their clients, servers, and applications so that they continue to operate and carry on with their businesses. An organization must consider if the disaster recovery provider has enough bandwidth and resources to handle the data transfer, and thus how long it will take to perform a recovery. Testing is important and often easier than with traditional disaster recovery because many providers offer automated tests. A cloud backup provider may also offer disaster recovery in the cloud. Cloud disaster recovery is particularly attractive for smaller businesses that do not have the funding or resources to support their own disaster recovery site. The cloud data center should be far enough away from the organization using it to ensure recovery from any disaster. Now, cloud versus local backup. When looking into data backup options, two main product categories are cloud backup and local backup. So, local backup, also known as traditional backup, is the process of storing a copy of data on site at the organization. In this approach, backup software is used to manage and copy the data to hardware such as tapes, disk, or network attached storage devices. In the enterprise, cloud data backup services were initially used for non-critical data. Traditional backup was considered better for critical data that requires a short recovery time object, that is RTO, commonly known as or referred to as, because there are physical limits as to how much data can be moved in a given amount of time over a network. When a large amount of data needs to be recovered, it may need to be shipped on tape or some other portable storage media. However, with most cloud backup schemes, whether controlled by a user's backup software, the cloud backup service application, or a backup appliance, the most recently backed up data is retained on site as well as spun off to the cloud service. This arrangement provides all benefits of the cloud backup while leaving a copy of the data that can be used for quick recoveries. Tape backup requires data to be copied from a primary storage device to a tape cartridge. Cartridges have grown dramatically in capacity in recent years. LTO-8 tapes released in late 2017 can store 12 TB of uncompressed data and 30 TB compressed data. Tape is a strong storage medium in an age of exponential data growth. In addition to their capacity benefits, tapes are comparatively inexpensive to own and operate. However, the restore process can be slow because access is sequential. While the cloud appears to offer unlimited capacity, costs rise dramatically depending on how much storage an organization needs. Although access is not sequential like with tape, restore times still depends on the internet or private communication lines and require an appropriate amount of bandwidth. Cloud service providers take some of the backup management work out of process for organizations. The process of backing up to tape and maintaining the cartridges is essentially up to the organization. This is more flexible, or there is more flexibility in the process of restoring from cloud backup because an organization can restore to several different devices including laptops and phones. Cloud and tape both provide protection from cyber attacks such as ransomware. Cloud backups are useful in event of an attack because they are off-site. Tape backup are even more secure because they are offline. Disk, while not as portable as tape is another common medium for backup. The biggest benefit to a disk is access speed. Disks offer random access and often top cloud and tape for restore speed. Disk-based backups are typically performed continuously throughout the day, while tape backup or backs up less regularly. A disk-based backup is self-contained with less personal interaction than with tape, making the risk of human error smaller. Disk-based backups can be expensive, often costlier than tape or cloud. The lifespan of disk is shorter than tape and its durability is weaker than that of tape. As long as service provider is still in business, the lifespan of a cloud backup could be longer than that of disk or a tape. NAS, that is networked attached storage backup, uses a type of appliance that connects to a network rather than a desktop or server or accomplish a local backup. These appliances allow multiple devices and users on the same network to store, access, and share data wirelessly. Both network attached storage and cloud backup offer strong data protection, high security, and efficient recovery times. But since networked attached storage appliances are located on the same local area network as the devices being backed up, NAS backups are quicker to perform than cloud backups. However, cloud backups can provide a lower initial cost and a higher reliability in case of non-site or on-site disasters. The following chart helps to illustrate when cloud data backup should be considered as a viable option. See, backup factor, first thing amount of data, then cloud storage, best when the total amount to protect is less than 100 GB per 1 MB of network bandwidth. For example, 100 GB can be supported by a 1 MB wide area connection such as DSL. Then traditional backup for large amounts of data or for environments with limited network connectivity, traditional backup techniques are more appropriate. Then next backup factor is rate of change. Best when the rate of change is less than 10% of the total data per month. For traditional backup, for data that changes frequently, traditional backup methods that use local disk and tape with tape transport offsite are more appropriate. With a proper retention policy, cloud backups can reduce or even replace the need for offsite tape storage. So, organizations are making the switch from disk to tape, that is D to D to T strategies, to disk to cloud, that is D to D to C strategies. Flexibility is another benefit of the cloud because no additional hardware is needed. Now, file synchronization and share in cloud backup. There is often confusion among the definitions of the cloud backup, cloud storage, and cloud synchronization, often referred to as file sync and share, that is FSS. There are similarities among the three, but they are different processes. File synchronization and share services allow users to create folders online where they can store and access files stored on personal computers and servers. As the name implies, these services can automatically update files to their latest versions, whether online or stored locally. They also make it easy to share files with colleagues or clients and to work collaboratively. Cloud synchronization providers include Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, and Microsoft OneDrive. Some companies rely on file synchronization and share services to back up their data as well. While this approach might be acceptable for a small amount of data, it is not appropriate for large data volumes or a company's critical data, as these services tend to lack the types of management and control features the cloud backup offers. Also, given their user oriented approach to data handling, data may become vulnerable if mishandled by sync and share participants. Now, hybrid cloud backup. Hybrid cloud backup providers connect traditional backups to the cloud. This strategy is useful for organizations that produce a large volume of data and need quick restore access. With one approach, a network attached storage, that is NAS appliance, serves as a local backup target and syncs backup data to the cloud or synchronizes backup data to the cloud. When an organization needs a quick restore, the data is available in the on-site networked attached storage. If an organization loses its primary site, the cloud backup is still available. This method can also be referred to as D to D to C backup, that is data to cloud backup or disk to cloud backup. In another hybrid approach, an organization uses both the public and private cloud for backup. It is difficult to get data consistency with hybrid cloud backup, especially if the data transfers takes a long time. Now, point in time snapshots and continuous backups help, but costs rise as backup frequency increases. Comparatively, in a pure cloud backup scenario, backup go directly to the service provider's cloud. Now, the cost. Third-party cloud backup initially gained popularity with small and medium businesses and home users because of its convenience. Today, cloud backup services have become more sophisticated and can offer the same level of data protection, if not greater, as in-house data backup. The technology has an initial upfront cost to implement, but its lower monthly or yearly payment plans appeal to many smaller operations. Capital expenditures for additional hardware are not required and backup can be run dark. However, the cost of keeping data in the cloud for years does add up. In addition, costs rise as the amount of data backed up to the cloud increases. A system of effective data grooming and archiving can help keep costs down. In terms of return on investment, it is important for an organization to consider the long-term cost of backing up to the cloud. A 5-year projection is recommended to properly estimate future expenses and to decide whether the cloud will help an organization break even after initial costs. After these costs are offset, ROI on cloud based backups can be determined. Pricing models vary by vendor, but it is important to look out for hidden costs in cloud backup services. While most products for backing up to the cloud are sold using a price per gigabyte per month payment model, providers can also use a sliding scale model, set usage minimums, and add transaction costs. Then, the security in cloud backup. Security is an important element in cloud backup process. The three main considerations are often referred to as the security CIA: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Most data will move across public internet on its way to the cloud. So, for confidentiality, many cloud backup providers encrypt data throughout the process, at the original location, during transit, and at rest in the provider's data center. A user or the provider holds the encryption key. Most organizations prefer to hold their encryption keys, and providers should offer this option. Types of network encryption include secure socket layer and transport layer security protocols. Now, the cloud security model, is it robust enough? First thing we need to know here with this flowchart is, do you need to meet a specific compliance requirement for your verified or vertical market? If yes, then add compliance process. If no, then add passive security models sufficient for the types of applications you are moving to the cloud. Now, if this is yes or the above thing, then by adding compliance process, the regulations within your vertical industry will outline the compliance procedures you need to follow. For example, if you are in the healthcare industry and must comply with HIPAA, only use cloud providers that are HIPAA certified. Then after this, you can come again to this process, that is passive security models. Then if this is there, that means if it is yes, then again go add basic security features. And if no, then come here, do you require more active security models for the types of applications you are moving to the cloud? Then here, if it is yes, then you can go and add more advanced security features. If it is no, then you are missing something, that means you have to add. And then if you have added this, that means you have added more advanced features or security features, then combining this, that is create a cloud security plan combining all this, and then you can go down, then test the cloud security and security operations. For integrity, users must determine if data is the same when it is read back or if it was corrupted. Object storage offers built-in integrity checks. Availability takes the restoration process into account. It asks, will data be available in a timely fashion in a disaster recovery situation? Access control is also important. An organization tightens security by limiting access to the cloud backups. Then, furthermore, write once, read only access protects backup data from being overwritten, altered, or deleted. Vendor options. Now, approaches to online backup services vary, so an organization should take a close look at SLAs, that is service level agreements, pricing plans, and long-term costs before choosing a provider. Examples of cloud data backup vendor options include the following. Acronis offers Backup Cloud, a hybrid cloud backup as a service product. Acronis Backup Cloud protects virtual, physical, and cloud environments and includes a pay-as-you-go business model. Then ArtServe expanded its Unified Data Protection, that is UDP, offering with its purchase of Zeta. The product includes ArtServe UDP, Cloud Direct, Direct to Cloud Disaster Recovery, and Backup. The cloud protection is targeted at the mid market. Then, Ekeeda is a cloud backup pioneer. It is or its cloud backup features embedded malware engines to prevent ransomware from getting into backups. Backblaze offers personal and business cloud backup as well as cloud storage. Backblaze stores data on its open source storage pods, hardware platforms, and cloud based Backblaze Vault file system. Backup data through Backblaze is accessible through a web browser on mobile devices and computers. Restores are downloaded over SSLs, that is secure socket layers. Carbonite sells to consumers, SMBs and enterprises. The company's offerings back up documents, email, music, photos and settings and are available for Windows and Mac users. Durva Cloud Backup features three major offerings. The enterprise level Durva InSync is targeted at endpoints and backs up data across physical and public cloud storage, while Phoenix is a software agent used to back up and restore data sets in the cloud for distributed physical and virtual servers. iDrive Cloud Backup is geared towards consumers and small businesses and includes snapshots, a syncing service, and hybrid data protection. Microsoft Azure Backup automatically sends backs up to the Azure cloud. Azure Site Recovery automates replication to backup private Windows infrastructure. Now, Unitrends allows customers to back up indefinitely to its private cloud with Forever Cloud. It offers several disaster recovery as a service options for recovery. VM Software provides cloud backup through its Cloud Connect product. Service providers can partner with VM to create a backup and recovery target in the cloud. These are all the vendors who provide cloud backup as a service to the enterprises looking for or going for the backup as a service thing. So we know what cloud computing is, how cloud backs up or what cloud backup is, what is backup as a service, what are its advantages, what are its disadvantages, what are the salient features to be known, what are the best practices in cloud backup, what is the difference in cloud backup and data recovery, what is the difference in cloud backup versus local backup, and so on. So these things now we know as a whole what cloud backup is and how it works, who are the vendors that provide services to the customers for the enterprise level, what is traditional backup, what is network attached storage, how they store, whether in tape or disk, everything. Now we know what cloud backup is. Thank you.